And here we go on the Hey Mary Kay edition of the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Let's get to our football insider questions that they sent us. And Mary Kay, as you would expect, they want to get to the big topics that have come out of that game on Saturday, the loss to the Green Bay Packers 24-22. So let's just start here. We're going to start with Kevin Stefanski, and a lot of people wanted to talk about his play calling and the decision making. And of course, we heard from Kevin today as well. So we'll start with Duncan Bell from Waterdown, Ontario. So we're going north of the border for this one. He says, "Hey, Mary Kay, I found it interesting and challenging that Coach Stefanski thought not running the ball from the 50-yard line in their last series of plays was a good idea after the success they had running during the game. What are your thoughts?"
Well, we've talked a lot about this. We've kicked around this notion. My thoughts on it are when you call a play and it is successful, nobody gives it a second thought. When it's not successful, everybody gets to pile onto it and say that that was horrible play calling. In the Raiders game, there was a lot of talk about how they ran the ball too much and didn't try to throw it, and they ran 3 straight times and blew it. In this particular game, the gripe is that they threw the ball 3 straight times and blew it when they were running the ball really well. And I guess a case can be made for that. But, I think you and I agree on this, Dan. When you have a QB1 that was drafted number 1 overall, you expect him to be able to complete a few simple passes on a drive like that, especially when you have a rookie kicker who's never kicked in an NFL game, and you're at the 50 and you are going to need to move roughly 30 yards in order to get your kicker in position to feel comfortable. So I don't have a problem with attempting a pass on first down or second down. I just don't really have an issue with it. What I do have an issue with is the fact that their quarterback right now just is not functioning like a winning, successful NFL quarterback, and that is hurting the football team.
Yeah, I mean, the throws were there. I will listen to the argument that you should have handed the ball to Nick Chubb once or twice. Like, that's fine. You had time to do it and you had the timeouts. But the plays he called were there. And that screen was set up for D'Ernest Johnson to keep running for a long time. And Baker almost threw an interception. A linebacker almost intercepted him on that throw. Mm-hmm. So it was there when he threw the ball. The quarterback just didn't execute on those throws. And again, I just think it's, we talked about this before we started recording. And I think it's really important to note this because people are talking about this like you only needed 15 yards. Mm-hmm. You mentioned it. They needed to get 30 yards to feel comfortable. And I even think comfortable is the wrong word. Mm-hmm. I think they would have gripped the steering wheel really hard and prayed if they were sending him out for a 37-yard field goal. I know he made one earlier, but I watched every single warm-up kick that he took. If you're 40 and beyond, you weren't feeling very good about that. They needed to get to at least the 20 to even think about it, and maybe even closer to even feel like, okay, we have a chance to win this game with a kick.
Yeah, and Kevin Stefanski was also very adamant about the fact that they didn't want to do that. They were not going for the field goal. It's also, the reason why John Harbaugh has had to do some things the way that he's had to do them because he hasn't trusted his secondary. So he's had to go for, late 2-pointers that might not make sense to everybody in the world. In this case, they were trying to go for the touchdown because, once again, they didn't have a kicker. Even if they had Chase McLaughlin, they wouldn't have had a kicker, right?
But you at least would have like you could have tried a 50-yard field goal with McLaughlin. Right. He's got the leg.
Right.
Like I'm just telling everyone.
Yeah.
He was not going to make a 50-yard field goal. It was not going to happen.
No. So they did what they felt that they had to do. They needed a chunk play. And, in times like that, they are going to stack the box. They're going to do what they're going to be expecting Nick Chubb to run the ball or D'Ernest Johnson to run the ball. And they are going to load up the box in that situation. So, once again, they did what they had to do. But I think that Baker was off. They would have been brilliant play calls had the passes been good. The passes were not good. None of them. Yeah. All 3 of them were bad. 3 straight bad passes. That was the problem.
Yeah, and obviously, look, again, there was a hold. It was pretty clear there was a hold. The DB kind of slingshotted himself into that interception, and there should have been a flag. But the two throws before that shouldn't have even made that an issue.
Yeah, and here's the other thing on that too. There is absolutely no guarantee whatsoever that Donovan Peoples-Jones would have caught that pass anyways, because Donovan and Baker Mayfield were not on the same page at all in that football game. Donovan was targeted 6 times, and he caught 1 pass for 5 yards. It continued a 2-week streak of those 2 guys not being on the same page. If you go back to the Raiders game in the first half, he was 1 of 5 targets for 6 yards, including some breakups and a couple of drops. So those guys are kind of off. So to even think that that was going to be a surefire completion, also not so.